First contact and final hope. The emergency alert blared through every device on Earth simultaneously. Colonel Sarah Chen was reviewing troop deployments at Pacific Command when her screens went dark, replaced by a simple message: "We are not alone." High above Earth's atmosphere, a massive vessel had appeared, its hull bearing the scars of recent battle. Before panic could spread, a transmission reached every major military installation worldwide. The message came not in any human language, but in mathematical sequences that Earth's computers quickly decoded. They called themselves the Nexarians, and they were losing a war that spanned galaxies. Their energy signatures are unlike anything we've ever seen, Dr. James Rodriguez reported, his holographic display showing readings from the alien vessel. The gathered military leaders of Earth's combined forces sat in stunned silence as he continued. But what's more interesting is the damage pattern. These aren't random hits, they're precise strikes targeting specific systems. Whoever they're fighting knows exactly where to hurt them. Colonel Chen studied the projections with practiced eyes. After 20 years in special operations, she learned to read between the lines of any situation. They're not just losing, she concluded. They're being hunted. The Nexarian ambassador, a tall, crystalline being who called himself first speaker, confirmed her assessment. His form shifted colors as he spoke, translating complex emotional states that human language couldn't quite capture. The Void Dominion seeks not victory, but extinction. They believe that evolution demands the strong consume the weak. We have fought for 300 of your years, but our civilization's advancement has become our weakness. We've grown too predictable, too reliant on pure technology. We need. He paused, his crystalline form pulsing with what their xenolinguists would later identify as hope tinged with desperation. We need something they cannot predict. General Maria Santos, Earth's highest-ranking military officer, leaned forward. Why us? We must seem primitive compared to your civilization. First speaker's response was immediate. We have watched your species. You adapt. You improvise. When faced with superior force, you don't simply innovate. You rewrite the rules of engagement. The Void Dominion cannot comprehend this. They believe advancement moves in a straight line, that their path of evolution is the only path. But you humans, his form rippled with something like admiration. You thrive on chaos. The truth of his words hung in the air. Humanity's history was written in impossible victories, in desperate last stands that succeeded against all odds. Where advanced civilizations taught established patterns, humans saw possibilities. Where others built perfect systems, humans found perfect workarounds. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up new data, his hands trembling slightly with excitement. Their faster-than-light technology alone could revolutionize our understanding of physics, if they're willing to share. We offer everything. First speaker interrupted. All our knowledge, all our technology. The Void Dominion believes they have calculated every possible response to their attacks, but they have never faced humans. Colonel Chen watched the reactions around the room. She saw the mixture of fear and excitement, the weight of a decision that would forever change humanity's destiny. But she also saw something else. Determination. Humans had always looked to the stars and dreamed. Now the stars were looking back, asking for help. General Santos stood, her decision made. We'll need to coordinate with other world leaders, but speaking for Earth's combined military forces, I believe we have an obligation to help. Not just for the technology or knowledge you offer, but because this is what humanity does. We stand against bullies, no matter their size. First speaker's form brightened considerably. There is something else you should know. The Void Dominion's power comes from their absolute control over dark matter technology. They believe they have mastered it completely. But our scientists have detected anomalies, patterns that suggest their understanding isn't as complete as they think. We've never been able to exploit this. Our approaches are too conventional, too bound by established theories. Dr. Rodriguez's eyes widened. But we might see something you don't. Because we're not bound by the same assumptions. Precisely. First speaker confirmed. You humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. We offer the necessity. Will humanity provide the invention? The next 48 hours saw the fastest mobilization in human history. As world leaders debated and planned, military forces worldwide began preliminary integration protocols. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for alien invasion. Now they were preparing for alien alliance. Colonel Chen found herself assigned to lead the first human tactical team that would train with Nexarian technology. As she watched her soldiers interact with the alien equipment, she noticed something remarkable. Where the Nexarians saw tools with specific purposes, humans saw possibilities. A medical scanner became a potential weapon detector. A gravity manipulator meant for construction became a possible combat advantage. We're going to need to completely rethink our approach to warfare, she told General Santos during their evening briefing. Their technology is advanced, but they use it in surprisingly rigid ways. If we can combine their tools with our tactical flexibility, we might just have a chance, the general finished. The question is, can we learn enough fast enough? The Void Dominion isn't going to wait while we catch up. As if in answer to her question, alarms blared throughout the facility. First speaker's form had turned a deep, pulsing red, a color they'd never seen before. They found us, he announced, his translator struggling to convey the urgency in his tone. The Void Dominion. They're coming. Humanity's crash course in interstellar warfare was about to begin. No one was ready. But then again, humans rarely were. They'd built their civilization on adapting to the impossible, on finding ways to survive and thrive when logic said they should fail. Now they would have to do it again, on a scale no one had ever imagined. The greatest war in human history was about to begin, and humanity's greatest strength would be the very thing their enemies dismissed, their unpredictability. First speaker watched as humans rushed to battle stations, already modifying Nexarian protocols in ways his people had never considered. Perhaps, he thought, that was exactly what the galaxy needed. The human factor. The Void Dominion's first attack came exactly where the Nexarians predicted, and exactly how humans hoped they wouldn't defend against it. Colonel Chen watched from the bridge of the newly retrofitted U.S. Daedalus as the massive Void fleet emerged from hyperspace. Their ships were perfect black spheres that seemed to absorb both light and hope, a manifestation of their belief in absolute order and control. The Nexarian commanders had already begun positioning their forces in traditional defensive formations, their strategies as predictable as they were doomed. Now, Chen ordered. Across Earth's orbital space, hundreds of seemingly abandoned satellite debris suddenly sparked to life. These weren't the advanced Nexarian defense platforms the Void Dominion had expected to face. They were repurposed Earth communication satellites, hastily modified with Nexarian technology, and a very human addition. Electromagnetic pulse generators reverse-engineered from their own failed experiments decades ago. The thing about being technologically superior, Dr. Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm, is that you stop worrying about primitive threats. The scientist had worked for 72 hours straight with his team to modify the satellites. Their shields are optimized for energy weapons and quantum disruption. They never considered we might try something as crude as an EMP. The pulse wave rippled across space. On dozens of Void ships, systems flickered and failed. Their perfect formation became chaos. It wasn't a devastating blow. Their technology was too advanced for complete failure, but it created something humans had learned to exploit over countless wars: confusion. All ships, execute Operation Scattered Thunder, Chen commanded. The human Nexarian hybrid fleet broke apart, abandoning traditional military formations for what must have looked like random chaos to their enemies. But there was method in the madness. Aboard the Daedalus, Lieutenant Maya Patel worked her console with practiced precision. She'd been a video game speedrunner before joining the military, famous for finding exploits in supposedly perfect systems. Now she was applying those same skills to alien warfare. Their targeting systems are predictive. she explained as she worked. They're so advanced, they don't just track where we are. They calculate where we should be based on standard combat algorithms. But humans rarely do what we should. The human ships moved in patterns derived from everything from bee swarms to hockey plays. The Void Dominion's perfect targeting solutions became useless against enemies that refused to follow logical battle patterns. But it wasn't just tactics that humans had revolutionized. In the weeks since first contact, they'd approached Nexarian technology with the same mindset that had turned sticks and stones into spaceships. Dr. Rodriguez and his team had discovered that the Nexarians' quantum communication system, designed for instantaneous secure transmission, could be overloaded with random data to create localized disruptions in spacetime. Essentially, they'd turned a telephone into a weapon. Multiple Void capital ships showing signs of shield instability, Paddle reported. They're trying to adapt their formations, but their responses are rigid, predictable. Chen nodded. The Void Dominion had spent centuries fighting opponents who followed the same rules of technological evolution they did. Now they faced an enemy that still remembered how to fight dirty. First Speaker stood on the bridge, his crystalline form shifting between amazement and concern. Your strategies violate dozens of established principles of space combat. That's kind of what we do, Chen replied, allowing herself a small smile. Humans have a saying. If it's stupid but it works, it's not stupid. The battle continued, but not as the Void Dominion had planned. Human ships deliberately took hits on heavily armored sections, seeming to flee in damage only to lead pursuit vessels into carefully planned crossfires. Earth's primitive nuclear weapons, enhanced with Nexarian power systems, proved devastating against enemies whose shields were calibrated for far more advanced energy weapons. But the true game-changer came from an unexpected source. Private Sarah Cooper, a former auto mechanic from Detroit, had noticed something about the Void ship's engine signatures. They're too perfect, she explained during a brief lull in the battle. Every system is optimized, operating at peak efficiency. But any mechanic knows, sometimes you need inefficiency. Sometimes you need give. Her insight led to a devastating discovery. The Void Dominion ships couldn't handle unexpected power fluctuations because they'd never needed to. Their engineering was too perfect, too rigid. A series of precisely timed energy pulses, transmitted through the modified communication system, sent cascading failures through their fleet. They're retreating, Patil announced, her voice tight with contained excitement. Across the viewport, the remaining Void ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a battlefield strewn with the debris of their first defeat in centuries. The victory had come at a cost. Several human ships had been destroyed, their crews making the ultimate sacrifice to prove that humanity's apparent weakness, their technological inferiority, could become their greatest strength. The Nexarian fleet had suffered losses as well, but far fewer than in any previous engagement with the Void Dominion. First Speaker's form had shifted to a color they'd never seen before, a deep, resonant gold that the translator struggled to interpret. In all our centuries of warfare, we never imagined. We thought advancement meant moving beyond such primitive solutions. That's the thing about humans, Chen replied, watching as rescue ships moved to recover survivors. We never throw away a tool that might be useful. We keep everything in our toolbox, from stone axes to quantum computers, because you never know what might work. The victory was significant, but Chen knew it was only the beginning. The Void Dominion would adapt, would learn from this defeat, but that was another human specialty. They were never better than when improvising against impossible odds. Send word to Earth, she ordered. Tell them Operation Scattered Thunder was successful, and tell them to speed up production on those modified satellites. The Void Dominion just learned that humans are in the fight. Now we need to show them what happens when we have time to get creative. As the message was sent, Dr. Rodriguez approached with a tablet full of new data. Colonel, we've been analyzing the energy readings from their retreat. I think we found something about their hyperspace technology that they don't want anyone to know. Chen smiled. The Void Dominion had spent centuries building the perfect war machine, but they were about to learn what happened when you faced an enemy who specialized in breaking perfect systems. "Get me General Santos," she ordered. "I think it's time for Phase 2. Operation Blindside." The Void Dominion's entire military structure depends on perfect synchronization, Dr. Rodriguez explained, his holographic presentation showing the intricate network of dark matter channels that connected their empire, their ships, their stations, even their troops. Everything operates on quantum-linked protocols. It's their greatest strength and their greatest weakness, Colonel Chen finished, studying the complex patterns. 3 months had passed since humanity's first victory, months filled with both triumphs and losses as the war expanded across multiple star systems. They've never considered the possibility of their network being compromised because, technically, it's impossible to breach. General Santos nodded. Technically impossible is humanity's specialty. They were gathered in a secret facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, one of many hidden command centers established since the war began. The room was filled with an unlikely mixture of Earth's finest minds, military strategists, hackers, theoretical physicists, and even several professional gamers who had proven surprisingly adept at finding exploits in alien technology. Lieutenant Patel stepped forward, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. "We've been analyzing the data from their retreat patterns. The Void Dominion doesn't just use dark matter for weapons, they use it for everything. Communication, navigation, power distribution. It's all connected through what they call the Nexus." First speaker's crystalline form dimmed slightly at the mention of this facility. The Nexus is their command hub, the heart of their empire. It's protected by defenses that make your Earth's entire military look like primitive projectile weapons. No force in the galaxy can approach it. "That's why we won't approach it," Private Cooper interrupted, then quickly added, "Sir." The former mechanic had been promoted to lead a special engineering unit dedicated to finding unconventional applications of alien technology. "We'll let it approach us." The room fell silent as Cooper pulled up her own diagrams. The Void Dominion's dark matter network is perfect, too perfect. It's like an engine running at maximum efficiency all the time. But any mechanic knows that's not sustainable. There have to be release valves. Dr. Rodriguez's eyes widened as he caught on. The quantum fluctuations we detected during their retreat, they weren't random. "Exactly," Cooper confirmed. "Their network regularly vents excess dark matter energy to prevent overload. They time these vents precisely, using the energy to power their long-range sensors. It's elegant, efficient, and predictable." Chen finished, a slow smile spreading across her face. "How long until the next major event?" 17 days, Patel answered. "And we've mapped the quantum signature. We can't breach their network, but we might be able to hitchhike." The plan that emerged over the next hours was either brilliant or suicidal, possibly both. Humanity would build what amounted to a quantum Trojan horse, using salvaged void technology and Earth's primitive understanding of physics to create something that shouldn't have been possible. First speaker's form shifted through multiple colors as he processed the proposal. "You want to deliberately trigger a cascading failure in your own ship's power systems, timing it precisely with their energy vent, creating a quantum bridge that will. This is madness. The precision required would be beyond even our most advanced computers." "That's why we won't use computers," Chen replied. "We'll use people." The team they assembled was unprecedented. 50 ships, crewed by volunteers who understood the mission might be one way. Each vessel was stripped down, rebuilt with hybrid technology that deliberately created the very power fluctuations most engineers spent their careers trying to prevent. The 17 days passed in a blur of preparation. Earth's finest pilots trained in simulators, learning to ride the edge of system failure like surfers catching a wave. Scientists worked around the clock, refining calculations that even the Nexarians' advanced computers struggled to process. On the day of the operation, Colonel Chen stood on the bridge of the Daedalus, watching as her fleet moved into position. "All ships, final check," she ordered. "Remember, timing is everything. We'll only get one shot at this." The response came back clear and confident. "Ready." They waited, every sensor focused on the invisible currents of dark matter that flowed through space. The Void Dominion's network was about to perform its regular maintenance cycle, venting excess energy in a precise, controlled pattern. 30 seconds, Pidal announced, her hands hovering over her console. The bridge crew held their breath. This was the moment that would determine if humanity's desperate gamble would pay off or end in disaster. Now, 50 ships deliberately triggered their power cores to fail, their systems screaming in protest as they rode the quantum wake of the Void Dominion's energy vent. For a fraction of a second, space itself seemed to hiccup, and then they were through. The Nexus hung before them, a massive structure that defied conventional physics, but they weren't there to admire it. Every ship immediately launched their payload, modified communication satellites carrying a very special program. The thing about perfect systems, Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm, is that they never expect a virus written in COBOL. The ancient programming language, considered obsolete even by Earth standards, ripped through the Void Dominion's quantum network like a stone Ajax through modern armor. Their perfect defenses, calibrated to stop the most sophisticated cyber attacks, had no protocol for dealing with something so primitive it preceded quantum computing by centuries. Chaos erupted across the Nexus as systems failed in cascading waves. But the human fleet wasn't done. Each ship launched their second payload, modified fusion bombs designed to interact with dark matter in ways that shouldn't have been possible. "All ships, clear the blast radius," Chen ordered. And hope our math was right. The detonation wasn't visible to the human eye, but sensors recorded it as a ripple in spacetime itself. The Nexus, pride of the Void Dominion, began to fall. "Emergency jump now," Chen commanded. One by one, the human ships activated their hybrid drives, riding the quantum backwash of their own attack to safety. As they emerged back in friendly space, Chen allowed herself to breathe. Against all odds, against all logic, they had struck at the very heart of the Void Dominion. The war wasn't over, far from it, but they had proven that even the most perfect system had weaknesses, if you were willing to think far enough outside the box. First Speaker's form had settled into a steady pulse of deep blue. "You did the impossible." "No," Chen corrected, watching as damage reports came in. They had lost ships, lost good people, but far fewer than anyone had predicted. "We did what humans always do. We found a way." The message they sent to Earth was simple. Operation Blindside successful. The giant has stumbled. Now comes the hard part. Because they all knew, the Void Dominion would respond with everything they had. But humanity had shown them something they had never expected to face. The power of imperfection, the strength of chaos, and the devastating effectiveness of thinking in ways that no advanced civilization would ever consider rational. The real war was about to begin. The price of victory. The void beyond Jupiter's orbit erupted in a cascade of quantum fire as another Void Dominion warship imploded. Colonel Chen watched from the Daedalus's command deck, her expression grim. Victory after victory had taught humanity an ancient lesson. Success could be just as dangerous as failure. Multiple signals approaching from Sector 7, Lieutenant Pidal reported, her voice hoarse from 20 hours at her station. Their signatures are different. They're adapting. The Void Dominion's response to the Nexus attack had been devastating. Gone was their rigid adherence to perfect formations and predictable tactics. They were learning, evolving, becoming more like their human adversaries. The price of teaching them chaos was paying for their education in blood. Casualty reports from the Brisbane colony, Dr. Rodriguez announced, his usual enthusiasm replaced by exhaustion. 8,000 civilians. The evacuation ships couldn't launch in time. Chen closed her eyes briefly. Brisbane was the third human colony lost in a week. The Void Dominion had abandoned their strategy of technological superiority in favor of something humans knew all too well: terror. First Speaker's crystalline form had taken on a deep, pulsing violet, a color they now recognized as mourning. "We never intended. Your species has lost so much. War is loss," General Santos responded from her holographic projection. The woman looked decades older than she had 6 months ago. "But we're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting for justice." The tactical display showed the broader strategic situation. Humanity's innovative tactics had shattered the Void Dominion's military structure, but like a wounded predator, they had become more dangerous in their desperation. Their remaining forces had split into smaller autonomous units, each adopting unpredictable strategies that mirrored humanity's own tactics. "They're using our playbook against us," Private Cooper observed, studying the attack patterns. "But they're missing something fundamental about why our tactics work." She was right. The Void Dominion's forces were copying human chaos, but without understanding its true source: the empathy and creativity that made humans adaptable rather than just random. "New contact." Patel's warning cut through the command deck. "Massive energy signature. It's like nothing we've seen before." The tactical display shifted, showing a tear in space itself. Through it emerged a vessel that defied description, a ship that seemed to be made of crystallized darkness. "The Eternal Night," First Speaker whispered, his form flickering with fear. "Their Supreme Commander's flagship. We thought it was destroyed centuries ago." The vessel's appearance changed everything. Intelligence reports flooded in from across the system. The Void Dominion wasn't just attacking military targets anymore. They were systematically destroying everything in their path, military and civilian alike. "They're not trying to win anymore," Chen realized, watching the destruction spread. "They're trying to ensure everyone loses." A transmission cut through all channels, a voice that seemed to come from the void itself. "Your species has taught us well, humans. You showed us that perfection is a weakness, that chaos can overcome order. Now we will show you the ultimate chaos: complete annihilation." The command deck fell silent as the implications became clear. The Void Dominion had taken humanity's greatest strength, their ability to think outside conventional boundaries, and twisted it into a weapon of absolute destruction. "Launch the Prometheus Protocol," General Santos ordered, her voice heavy with the weight of command. Chen felt her heart sink. The Prometheus Protocol wasn't just a military strategy. It was a philosophical nightmare brought to life. Dr. Rodriguez and his team had discovered a way to use the Void Dominion's own dark matter technology against them, but the cost would be devastating. "If we do this," First Speaker warned, "we will be destroying more than just their fleet. We'll be unwriting the very laws of physics in this sector of space. The damage will be permanent." "They've left us no choice," Santos replied. "Sometimes the price of victory is becoming what we fought against." The next hours were a blur of desperate action. Every remaining human and Nexarian ship coordinated in a dance of precise destruction, herding the Void Dominion fleet into position. The enemy, believing they were witnessing another clever human tactical maneuver, fell into formation to counter it. They never saw the true threat until it was too late. "Prometheus Protocol activated," Rodriguez announced, his voice barely a whisper. Space itself seemed to scream as fundamental forces collapsed. The dark matter network that the Void Dominion relied upon didn't just fail. It ceased to exist, taking with it a sphere of space 50 light-years in diameter. When it was over, the sector was changed forever. Stars still burned, planets still orbited, but the very fabric of space-time had been altered. No dark matter technology would ever function there again. The victory was complete, but the cost was beyond calculation. Dozens of populated systems, both human and Nexarian, would have to be abandoned. The laws of physics themselves had been changed in ways that would make certain technologies impossible for millennia. "Send word to Earth," Chen ordered, watching as rescue ships began the enormous task of evacuation. Tell them we won, but make sure they understand what winning cost us. First Speaker's form had shifted to a color they had never seen before, a deep, resonant gray that seemed to absorb light. Your species truly is remarkable, Colonel. You were willing to change the very nature of reality itself to preserve life. That's the thing about humans, Chen replied, watching as the survivors were counted and the dead were mourned. We'll sacrifice anything to protect what matters, even if that means sacrificing our own innocence. The war wasn't completely over. Scattered Void Dominion forces remained in distant sectors, but their power was broken. Humanity had proven itself on a galactic scale, but the victory left a bitter taste. As the Daedalus limped home, Chen found herself wondering about the future. Humanity had changed the galaxy forever, but they had also changed themselves. The question wasn't just whether they could live with what they'd done. It was whether they could prevent themselves from becoming what they had destroyed. The price of victory wasn't just measured in lives lost or systems destroyed. It was measured in the weight of impossible choices, in the burden of knowing that sometimes saving civilization meant sacrificing pieces of your own humanity. The real work, learning to live with what they had become, was just beginning. Legacy of Terra. 5 years after the Battle of the Eternal Night, Colonel Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood at a window in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on Mars, watching ships from 100 different species drift through the crimson sky. Each vessel represented a civilization that had emerged from hiding after the Void Dominion's fall, each bringing their own stories of survival and their own hopes for the future. The latest survey results from the dead zone are in, Dr. Rodriguez reported, his hair now more gray than black. He'd aged decades in the years since they'd activated the Prometheus protocol, the weight of its consequences evident in every line on his face. The damage is permanent, just as we predicted. That sector of space will never support dark matter technology again. Chen nodded, watching as a crystalline Nexarian ship performed a graceful dance with a human patrol vessel, a training exercise that would have been unimaginable just years ago. And the survivors. The relocation efforts are proceeding ahead of schedule. The Nexarians have been instrumental in helping us establish colonies in new systems. Their technology combined with our adaptability has opened up possibilities neither of our species imagined. A familiar prismatic glow announced First Speaker's arrival. The Nexarian ambassador's form had evolved over the years, developing new colors that their translators were still struggling to interpret. The Council is ready to begin, Admiral. The Galactic Assembly Chamber was a marvel of hybrid engineering. Nexarian crystal technology merged with human intuitive design, creating a space that felt both ancient and newborn. Representatives from 47 spacefaring civilizations filled the room, their differences forgotten in the face of a changed galaxy. The human concept of victory is complex. First Speaker addressed the assembly, his form shifting through shades of wisdom and reflection. When they joined our war, we expected them to simply add their strength to ours. Instead, they taught us that true strength often means questioning everything we believe we know. Chen took her place at the podium, facing the gathered representatives of a new galactic order. 5 years ago, we faced a choice between submission to perfect order or the risk of ultimate chaos. We chose a third path, the human path. We proved that adaptation is stronger than perfection, that creativity can overcome even the most advanced technology. Holoprojections showed the ongoing work across the galaxy. The dead zone, that vast sphere of altered spacetime, had become a monument and a warning. Around its edges, joint human-alien research teams studied its properties, learning new principles of physics that neither species would have discovered alone. But our victory came with costs we're still trying to understand, Chen continued. We changed the very nature of reality in our desperation to survive. The question now is, what do we do with that knowledge? How do we ensure we don't become what we fought against? The answer had emerged gradually over the years since the war. Humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wasn't their victory over the Void Dominion. It was their demonstration that progress didn't have to follow a single path. Their primitive solutions, combined with advanced alien technology, had created entirely new fields of science. The Void Dominion believed that evolution moved in a straight line. Dr. Rodriguez addressed the assembly. That technological advancement could only follow one path. We proved them wrong not by being more advanced, but by remembering our roots, by keeping every tool in our arsenal, from the simplest lever to the most advanced quantum computer. Private Cooper, now Chief Engineer Cooper, had led the development of entirely new technologies that combined the best of multiple civilizations. Her teams had proven that sometimes the most elegant solutions came from combining the most advanced theory with the most basic principles. "We're calling it convergent engineering," she explained, displaying examples of their work. Taking different approaches to the same problem and finding ways to make them work together. It turns out human primitive thinking isn't primitive at all. It's just coming at problems from a different angle. The assembly chamber hummed with excited discussion as representatives recognized the possibilities this new approach offered. Species that had hidden from the Void Dominion for centuries were now emerging, bringing their own unique perspectives and technologies to share. But our greatest challenge lies ahead, Chen concluded. We've proven that humanity can change the galaxy. Now we have to prove we can help build something better than what we destroyed. The proof was already taking shape. The dead zone, that stark reminder of war's cost, had led to the creation of the Galactic Sciences Initiative. Teams of humans and aliens worked together, combining different approaches to understanding the universe. Where the Void Dominion had sought to impose a single path of evolution, this new alliance celebrated diversity of thought and method. Lieutenant Patel, whose gaming background had revolutionized space combat tactics, now led a division dedicated to finding unconventional applications for conventional technologies. "The key is remembering that no knowledge is ever obsolete," she explained. "Every perspective adds something to the picture." As the assembly concluded, Chen found herself back at the window, watching the dance of ships against the Martian sky. First speaker joined her, his form radiating colors that spoke of hope and possibility. "Your species feared that using the Prometheus Protocol would cost you your humanity," he observed. "Instead, it showed the galaxy what humanity truly means." Chen smiled, remembering the desperate days of the war, the impossible choices, the victories and losses that had brought them here. "We're not perfect," she said. "We never will be. But maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needed. A reminder that imperfection can be strength, that chaos can create new forms of order." The sun set over Mars, casting long shadows across the assembly building. In orbit above, ships from dozens of civilizations moved in harmony, each following their own path while contributing to a greater whole. It was a dance of organized chaos, of diversity within unity, a living symbol of humanity's legacy to the stars. "We changed the galaxy," Chen mused, watching the lights of distant ships twinkle like new stars. "Now the galaxy is changing us." And perhaps that was the greatest victory of all, not the defeat of an enemy, but the creation of something entirely new. Humanity had reached for the stars and found not just new allies, but new ways of being, new paths to evolution that no one had imagined possible. The legacy of Terra would not be written in the scars of battle or the zones of altered physics, but in the endless possibilities that opened up when different species learned to see the universe through each other's eyes. It was a legacy of innovation, of adaptation, and most importantly, of hope. The war was over. The future was just beginning.